Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, following the American targeted assassination of Iran's Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani, President Donald Trump emphasizes that under his leadership, U.S. policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American or Washington's allies. Amid heightened regional tensions, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declares that Israel stands completely alongside the United States in its just struggle for security, peace, and self-defense. The Islamic Republic announced its immediate withdrawal from the so-called 2015 nuclear agreement, and in further retaliation for Soleimani's assassination, Tehran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif vowed the United States will be targeted in a place and at a time when it will hurt the most. These first days of the 21st year of the 21st century are marked with a considerable and continuous increase of tensions across the Middle East. The situation began to deteriorate on the 20th of December when an unprovoked rocket attack targeted an Iraqi military installation near the city of Kirkuk. As a result, one American civilian contractor was reportedly killed and several U.S. and Iraqi military personnel sustained injuries. In a retaliatory response to the killing of the American contractor, U.S. aircraft launched several aerial sorties against 5 Iranian-backed militant installations, 3 in western Iraq and 2 in eastern Syria. All of the targets belong to the Iranian-backed Kataib Hezbollah militia, a radical Iraqi-based terror group that operates as part of the Popular Mobilization Forces, or Hashd al-Sha'bi in Arabic, yet receives its directives and equipment from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard's elite Quds Force. At least 25 operatives of the Iranian-backed group were reportedly killed, including 4 of its top commanders. Providing details with regard to the offensive operation, U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, alongside Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, alluded to additional available actions that were recommended to President Donald Trump as necessary to ensure that the United States act in its own self-defense.
The Department of Defense took offensive actions in defense of our personnel and interests in Iraq by launching F-15 Strike Eagles against 5 targets associated with Kataib Hezbollah, which is an Iranian-sponsored Shiite militia group. And I would note also that we will take additional actions as necessary to ensure that we act in our own self-defense and we deter further bad behavior from militia groups or from Iran.
2 days after the American retaliatory attack on the Kataib Hezbollah militia, thousands of the group's militants and supporters staged a violent demonstration in front of the United States Embassy in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. During the protest, dozens of Shiite militiamen broke into the embassy's compound, smashing its main door and setting fire to a reception area. Local security guards and American-trained Iraqi special forces responded to the breach with crowd dispersal means, and Iraqi officials underscored that the U.S. embassy staff had been evacuated prior to the riot. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. The U.S. State Department released a statement in which it confirmed that all American personnel were safe. Subsequently, U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Twitter account a response in which he accused the Islamic Republic of Iran of orchestrating the violent protest, which he referred to as an attack on the U.S. embassy, and further vowed that Tehran will be held fully responsible. Less than 3 days later, on January 3rd, Friday morning, the American leader followed through on his pledge to hold the Iranian regime accountable when he authorized a targeted assassination in Iraq of the top commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's elite Quds Force, General Qasem Soleimani, along with several commanders of local Iranian-backed militias.
At my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
President Trump further emphasized in his televised announcement that America's policy under his leadership is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American or Washington's allies.
Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you, we will eliminate you, we will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies.
The targeted assassination of the top Iranian commander came as a surprise to the Islamic Republic's leadership in Tehran, including the Ayatollah regime's regional proxies and allies. It is important to explain that Qasem Soleimani was regarded as the second most powerful figure in Tehran, the closest confidant to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was directly responsible for the implementation of the Islamic revolutionary expansionist foreign policy. He directed countless Iranian-backed attacks against Western forces that claimed the lives of hundreds of American military personnel. Standing alongside the American move and its right to self-defense, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised President Donald Trump and asserted that Israel stands completely alongside the United States in its just struggle for security, peace, and self-defense.
קאסם סולימאני הביא למותם של אזרחים אמריקנים רבים וחפים מפשע רבים נוספים במהלך עשרות השנים האחרונות וגם בימים אלה. סולימאני יזם, תכנן וביצע פיגועי טרור רבים ברחבי המזרח התיכון וגם מעבר לו. הנשיא טראמפ ראוי לכל הערכה על שפעל בנחישות, בעוצמה ובמהירות. ואני רוצה להבהיר שוב שישראל עומדת לחלוטין לצידה של ארצות הברית למאבקה הצודק, לביטחון, לשלום ולהגנה עצמית.
It is important to know that while the demise of Soleimani was warmly welcomed in Jerusalem, Israel was not part of the American operation to assassinate the top Iranian general. Nevertheless, the Israeli military has raised its level of alert for fear of an Iranian attempt to exact revenge by targeting the United States' closest regional ally. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke last night by telephone with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. According to the top American diplomat, their conversation had focused on the importance of halting Iran's cancerous influence in the region and removing its threat. Pompeo further stated that, as always, the United States is grateful to Israel for its strong support in the battle to eradicate terrorism. Meanwhile, with widespread calls for revenge from within Tehran as well as from Iran's regional proxies and allies, the Islamic Republic announced that as a first retaliatory step, effective immediately, it withdraws entirely from the 2015 nuclear agreement. Furthermore, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif vowed this morning that Iranian retaliation against the United States will be performed in a place and at a time when it will hurt the most.
آمریکا با ترور سردار شهید سرافراز قاسم سلیمانی پایان حضور نامشروع خود در غرب آسیا را رقم زده است و این ثمره خون این شهید بزرگوار همکنون آغاز شده است. این نقطه مهمی در تاریخ منطقه و جهان است. ایالات متحده جواب قاطع و حتمی گستاخی خود را در زمان و مکانی که حد اکثر درد را احساس کند خواهد گرفت.
The threat voiced by Zarif came at the third day of national mourning in Iran, which included hundreds of thousands of regime supporters flooding the streets of Tehran during Qasem Soleimani's funeral procession. Among those attending a public march alongside Soleimani's coffin, which drew the attendance of an overwhelming number of leaders of internationally recognized terror groups, was the political leader of the Islamist Hamas organization, who was granted the so-called honor to eulogize the Iranian general.
أقول بأن الشهيد القائد سليماني الذي أمضى حياته من أجل دعم المقاومة وإسنادها وهو على رأس فيلق القدس في الحرس الثوري الإيراني، أقول الذي مضى عليه إنه إذن شهيد القدس شهيد القدس شهيد القدس.
Not all of the Iranian-backed leaders were at attendance. Most notably, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah remained in an undisclosed bunker in Lebanon, from which he pledged to exact a heavy price from the United States forces that are deployed in the Middle East.
أما قاسم سليماني ليس شأنا إيرانيا بحتا. قاسم سليماني يعني كل محور المقاومة. قاسم سليماني يعني كل قوى المقاومة. العدل، القصاص العادل هو ما يلي بشفافية ووضوح: الوجود العسكري الأمريكي في المنطقة. الوجود العسكري الأمريكي في منطقتنا.
Nasrallah further declared that the Iranian proxies operating in Iraq will not relent until all U.S. forces are rooted out of their country.
ولكن ما أعرفه عن العراقيين وعن فصائل المقاومة العراقية أن المقاومين الشرفاء الحسينيين أبناء أبي الفضل العباس لن يبقوا جنديا أمريكيا في العراق.
It is important to mention that the newly appointed leader of Iran's Quds Force is Qasem Soleimani's longtime deputy, IRGC Brigadier General Ismail Ghani.